Hey, DM Dango here with another review from the DM's Guild. This time we're looking at DMJam number 1. Now I need some peanut butter. So, DMJam number 1. What are you getting in this? What is the DMJam? And who's responsible? Well, Dr. Backflip, the kind GM, and Terminally Nerdy were the judges for this. Dr. Backflip, I believe, is the one who organized the bulk of this and kind of set it all up. He's the one who approached me to have a review of this. Now, the criteria for this is that the entrants had 2 weeks to prepare an adventure module of sorts for this thing. The only criteria that we're given is it must include a ship, a NPC, which was a crazy cultist, a crazy zealot specifically, and it also had to include a pig. So a little tricky, that one, but all of them managed it with flying colors. Now, in terms of the 6 adventures, I'm not going to go into great detail on each one. I'm going to pick 2 out of the 6. I'm going to give you a deep dive into those 2 and let you experience the other 4. Don't worry, the other 4 are of similar quality, although there is some disparity between the formatting options that each arrive, and I'll go into greater details of what those are. So let's start with Scions and Sears of Cliffbrook. So this is an adventure where you are a party of adventurers and you arrive in this town as things are beginning to get very heated, very strange. It's a town where they basically rely on the fact that there is a set of cliffs, or set of cliffs and rocky shoals and rocky undercurrents and reefs that kind of cause ships to crash and break against the waves. And they will go out there and they will reap the rewards of that. And as part of that, they understand that they are reaping the benefits from others' misfortune. And so if they find anything that, say, is more valuable than, say, rope, nets, or pieces of driftwood, they turn that into their local, I think it's their local priest, who then, trades that in and gets money for the village in case they need it. I like that bit of lore building that kind of like really cements this place into like a real world place. You could almost believe that a place like this would have or could have existed at one time or another, even in human history. Now from there it goes a little bit strange as you arrive as the kind of the adventurers to say, oh, well, you're here and something strange has washed ashore. A collection of things, we're used to. We don't usually get 2 Triton bodies as part of that, as part of the kind of the ship's manifest. As part of this town's kind of history of rescuing things or retrieving things, they always throw out a rope as part of that to kind of help sailors who have been shipwrecked to potentially come ashore. And there's 1 or 2 of those kind of running around in the village. Now, I'm not going to spoil the ending or the mysteries because all of these kind of have this very mystery element kind of woven in, and some of them do better than others in various respects. Now, in terms of what I disliked about this, dislike is a bad word. I'm going to use things that I would like to see that would have bumped this a little better, made it a little more polished, better. It is a 2-week turnaround time for these kinds of things, and it is a 2-week game jam, so there can be some expectations to kind of say, yeah, look, you only had 2 weeks, you're okay. But in terms of what I would like to see, I would have loved to have seen a map as part of this, maybe a map of the village to say kind of like, well, this is what it looks like, and this is kind of where everything is. That would have been nice to see. Everything else, though, I think that's like my one tiny little gripe. In terms of good things, I really like the ideas behind it. I really like the kind of very Cthulhian vibe that it or Lovecraftian, I guess is the right way to put it. Lovecraftian vibe it kind of gives off in terms of the enemies that are presented. No spoilers, but it has that very much kind of things from the deep, kind of spooky bits and pieces. And the mystery surrounding it is one that I think players don't necessarily have to be aware of, but if they realize it's there, it adds an extra bit to those players who are willing to kind of go that extra mile to delve into it. Now, In terms of the other adventure, the one I looked at was, I looked at all 6, but the other one I really liked, and I'm going to pick out for this, is A New Angle. And it has some of the most interesting and unique mechanical options as part of that. Again, there is no map for it, which might have been nice, but given the way it's structured, I'm surprised it doesn't there. It has a very interesting way of handling things like chase scene, where you have something that you're moving along, and it uses you basically, like, the mechanics behind it are you roll a set of dice on a map, and wherever the dice land, that's where this hazard happens to be. And this thing you're riding along kind of goes along, and it can move and everything else and potentially ram into one of these obstacles. And it's really interesting to see that the way that mechanic plays out. And it's like, well, is that going to work in terms of like an online game? Because I play mostly online up through Roll20. It's like, well, I could probably mock something up on my table right next to where I play and kind of have that there, and it would still work fairly well. So I could just go boom, 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 boom. That was a really interesting thing. The monsters presented in that adventure are very unique and very different, I think, from a lot of the other things you would potentially see. It's one of the 2 adventures in the module that has a heavy influence on the ethereal plane. The other one being the landing at Irvindale. Yeah, Irvindale is the other one that has that. Is a kind of like a strong link in that bit. There's also, obviously, it has a reference to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I love, which is the bowl of petunias. I hope that's purposeful, and probably is. You don't just randomly put in bowls of petunias, unless you're, Douglas Adams. So those are the 2 adventures that I really picked out, and I really loved the fact that they were in there. Now, in terms of things I disliked about the whole collection, though, one of the things that is very jarring for this is that there's 4 different ways of formatting this. I would have liked to see, if you're going to release this on the DM's Guild as a paid product, I would have liked to see an effort to be made to kind of normalize the formatting, to kind of make it so that it's consistent across them, even if it's just a case of slapping a background underneath them to kind of make them formatically consistent. Is that a right word? Possibly. Formatically consistent would be a nice thing to do. Some of them are formatted in the way that you see things in the DMG and the player's handbook, and they're very well done for that. It's nice to see. Other things are formatted in a slightly different way, and one adventure is just simply a plain text file with a couple of line breaks in there so that you can separate where various bits are. All of the adventures, though, are workable and usable, and I think present interesting ideas. Each one can be stripped and used in a different way. Some require more DM setup than others. It is tricky to kind of figure out which one you want to run with. Now, I would say Scions and Sears of Cliffbook and A New Angle, you could run as is. There's very little DM prep for you to do. The other 4, they require more prep work from the DM side of things. They require more thinking. Curse of the Windlord's less so. It doesn't require as much prep work. But the other 3, they definitely require more time on the DM's part to kind of set things up so that everything's ready to go, and kind of more thinking as well. So in terms of my rating, the reason I'm going with a 4 instead of like a 5, or I'm not going as low as a 3, is because the 3 adventures that I really liked. The premises they have and the monsters they use and the way they present them is interesting and unique. And while the other adventures aren't as polished as that, the fact that they're there doesn't detract or have a negative enough light on the other ones to say, oh no, this whole thing is a 3 because these last 3 are awful. Like, no. The adventures that are in there, especially the one that won. The one that won was very, very good and very well written, and the lore that allows it to be like grounded in the world is very, very nice. And the New Angle has such a unique and interesting monster in it. I'm surprised it didn't win. And I think the judges may have had quite a tricky bit when they were looking at those 2 adventures. Thank you for your time. Please do remember to like and subscribe on this video so I know that I'm doing the right thing. And look forward to the next DMJam. Maybe I'll even participate this time around. Makes it a bit hard to review my own things, though. Anyways, peace out.